Good evening and welcome to Night Callers Bigfoot Radio. You're here with your hostess, Lauren Smith. And tonight we will be chatting with Max Hawthorne, who is a paleofiction author and cryptid researcher. Water cryptids, to be specific. But before we get into it, I would like to ask that you show the NCBR team some love by hitting that thumbs up on whatever platform you're using to listen. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so that you don't miss the updates on new shows and content. Also, you guys can go to nightcolorsproductions.com to see everything I'm working on and for different ways to enjoy the content that I put out every week. I have a lot of great things coming to you guys that you really don't want to miss. And so now I'm going to go ahead and get into this interview with Max Hawthorne. And so how are you doing tonight, Max?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. So I already warned my moderator team. I said, hey, you guys, just be warned. I'm going to geek out on this guest tonight because I'm reading his book and I'm so excited to have you on.
Oh, I'm honored to be here, so thank you.
Yes. Okay. So you are a paleofiction author. You're the Prince of Paleofiction. I'm guessing you did not come up with that title for yourself. I'm hoping.
No, there's this, I'm not going to go into names and stuff, but there was this back in 2014 when Kronos Rising first came out, a passionate fan, ex-military guy, who actually is the person who coined the term paleo art in terms of paintings, etc., about prehistoric life. And he started going around calling me, "You're the Prince of Paleofiction," and all this other stuff. And it started to catch on a little bit, and I took a liking to it. And then, like in 2016, I was in Fangoria magazine, and they put it in there. So after that, I just kind of went with it.
Yeah, no, it works for you. I think you're a very talented writer. So like I was saying before the show, I listened to an interview that you did with someone else, and they focused more on the writer piece of it rather than the cryptid piece or any of that. They just focused on how you came about to, do all of this. And in the interview, you just said that you just whipped these books out in like 5 or 6 months.
Yeah, lately that's what I've been doing. I'm actually in the middle of a novel right now. And it's not going to be a huge novel. I would say 350 pages or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's taking me about 4 months to do, I guess. So.
And I know your 550-page books take you about 6 months. And these do not read like quickly written books at all. These are fleshed out. They have continuity. They're very well written books.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I when I say 2,000 words a day, and sometimes it's not easy to do 2,000 words a day. Sometimes you do 3,000. Believe it or not. There was a meme out there, like with the thing from the Lord of the Rings, where it says, "I was there, Gandalf," 3,000 years ago, whatever. And somebody had something that said, "I was there the day Max Hawthorne wrote 3,000 words." But 3,000 words edited, really polished is a lot. I put a lot of research into my stories, and I try to be very descriptive and visceral and bring you there.
Right. So. Oh, it works. So before this, before we went live, I already told you, I actually sent you an email earlier today explaining that I had to cut back on my coffee intake while reading your book. I was on the edge of my seat. I started the book yesterday morning, and I'm already almost done with it because I can't put it down. And it's just so intense. Oh my gosh. Like at one point last night, my son was sleeping on my lap and he twitched in his sleep. I about jumped off the couch because I was so I was just like so tense and just, oh my gosh, it's such a good book. And so how I've been describing it to people is that it's like Lake Placid is one of my all-time favorite movies, and it's like Lake Placid meets Jaws meets Jurassic Park meets Moby Dick. So it's like all the best features of all of those things in one book. It is so great.
And I've seen all 4 of those movies, so there must be something to that.
Also, an Into the Blue, theme because it's modern day and something big is coming to get you. I'm just saying, throwing that out there. But
By
so
the way,
I
this is my
really
daughter's mug, so if she finds out I'm using this, there will be hell to pay. But
there's a really good chance she will, since this will go
yeah.
viral. We watched that movie earlier today, actually, the first two. So that's really weird that you were drinking out of that mug. Um, okay, hold on. Okay, so so I'm reading the book, and the whole time I'm thinking about it from a reader standpoint, and I'm really enjoying it. But also, there's the researcher in me, and I'm just noticing that there's so many things that, like I did not know that the sperm whale, for instance, sends out kind of a sonar frequency that disables its prey. I didn't know that. And so just first of all, that goes along with Bigfoot in a way because of infrasound. But to me, it's just amazing how much research went into these books. And I read your bio, and I know that, you are a cryptid researcher, you're a world record holding angler. But the level of research that went into this, it's above and beyond all of that.
It was no small feat. I had to learn so much stuff. I mean, there's submarines in there, submersibles. So I
Yes.
had to learn about submarines. I had to learn about meteors because I don't know if you've got to the part where the Cretaceous flashback scenes are.
Not yet. No.
Well, it
No
won't be
spoiler
a huge.
alert.
Okay. Never mind. It wouldn't be a
Go
spoiler,
ahead.
but
I'll
I had
go.
to learn about meteors, asteroids, impacts. Obviously I knew a lot about animals, prehistoric life,
Hmm.
marine life, and I knew a lot about boats because I'm a fisherman, as a hobby. I mean, but yeah, but there was a lot of stuff. I mean,
There's a
you
lot.
have to you have to do what's achieving. They call achieving a suspension of disbelief. You want the
Hmm.
reader to feel like they're there, that they're living it, and you can't do anything like you don't want to do anything that's illogical.
Right.
So that in terms of behavior, like people be like, "Oh, he would never do that. She would,"
Yeah.
and then they throw the
Yeah.
book away and stuff. In my case, I had somebody get two people. They were talking about it a few weeks ago on one of the Facebook groups, and they were upset because in the not the latest novel, but the one before that, a major character, their favorite character, was killed, and in quite dramatic fashion, yes. And they were very upset. And the one guy goes, "I was so mad at Max." He goes, I had tears in my eyes, and I threw the book across the room and couldn't pick it up for 3 months."
Oh,
And the other guy goes, "Right, I was crying too." And I'm like, these are grown men
yeah.
saying how they're crying on, I must be doing something right if
Oh, definitely.
to
Yeah.
invoke that type of emotion. So it's very flattering.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So one of the things that I love, besides that it's a very well written and well researched book, there's so much to learn from it that I was telling you before the show. I have two little boys,
Hmm.
and so I'm very well versed on dinosaurs. Very well versed.
As you should be.
As I should be.
Definitely.
I listed off for you the various dinosaur movies and shows that I know all the theme songs to and whatever. But water dinosaurs, I'm not as well versed. And so in this book specifically, there is a creature that
Hmm.
is wreaking havoc in the ocean around this place. And it's a version of a plesiosaur, which how I described it to my child was a crocodile with fins rather than legs, but like 20 times the size of a regular crocodile.
They were huge animals. I mean, the fossil record, like the creature in the book is a type of plesiosaur called a pliosaur.
Hmm.
And pliosaurs, there's two basic plesiosaur body types. They're all plesiosaurs per se, but you have the long necked ones, like I mentioned, that are sort of like people picture the Loch Ness monster. Your
Right.
elasmosaur, your plesiosaurus. They have long necks, small heads. They eat fish. They're piscivores,
Hmm.
and they have the same body in terms of the flippers, et cetera, four flippers, same swimming technique, but that's their shtick, and those are called plesiosauromorphs. The pliosauromorphs are like the apex predators of the seas. They had a very large head, sort of like a crocodile's, except larger temporal fenestra, so the jaw muscles are very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And short necks, the huge bodies, large, powerful flippers to chase down prey, and a short, I don't want to say stubby tail, but a short tail, not long
Right.
like a crocodile or a mosasaur or something like that. But and I have a couple of fossils here that I'll show you real quick on this topic. These are
Thank you.
both centra. That's like a bone from the spinal column, but they're missing the processes. So these are the disc portion. Okay. Now
Mm-hmm.
this small one here is from a small species of pliosaur. They really haven't said which one. I suspect it's a Stratosaurus, but we'll see. And if you look at it, this is it would have your processes coming up here. So this is a dorsal one, and then ribs coming out from here. But this animal was probably about 16 feet long, the size of a medium-sized female orca. Okay.
Right.
And if you look closely, I don't know if you can see this or not, you see where those arrows are? Those are
Yes.
tooth punctures. So this creature was killed and taken apart and eaten by something else, something bigger.
Right.
Okay. And that would probably be more something like this.
Oh my gosh.
Now, this is the centrum. This is over 8 inches across from a good sized pliosaur. This animal would be at least 40 feet long, the size of a bus, and probably weigh about 40 tons. It's also missing. It would have things coming up here and out here
Yeah.
and here, etc. But so you can see they get bigger than that. But so yeah, pliosaurs were no joke, and we're lucky they don't exist anymore, because I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have the self-control that killer whales do when it came to boats and things like that.
Right.
As we
Yeah.
know in the book.
As we know in the book, which
Yeah.
I'll refer to the book a few more times because I'm geeking out a little bit over it. But I mean, so in the book, one of my favorite things about the book is that it switches back and forth from the animal's perspective to the human's perspective. And so that really tied the book together. So you could see, like, it was a great way to bring about the creature's
Personality.
characteristics and
Mhm.
personality, but it's characteristics. Like,
Mhm.
the creature could just do various things, and it was a great way to describe the creature and what it could do and how it thought about predators. And so the creature, honest to God, thought it was the biggest predator in the entire sea, which it was used to being,
Mhm.
until it met, I think, a sperm whale, or there was some kind of animal or creature that it met, and it was kind of nervous at first, and then it took it out.
The blue whale.
The blue whale, and she was pregnant. Yes.
Yeah. Horrible scene.
It was, well, there's a lot of horrible scenes in that one,
Yeah.
but they're very, very good. They're very well written, and it shows this thing. It has an insatiable appetite. It feeds even when it's not hungry. It feeds just because it's vicious, and if it feels challenged, it feeds, all of that stuff. So it kind of the reason I'm bringing all this up is, in your research, did you find that any scientific evidence to support that that's how it was in real life, that it was just a vicious predator?
Well, if you look at Nile crocodiles, for example, they're pretty unpleasant animals. You've probably seen those videos of like wildebeests and zebra trying to cross a river, and they just ripping things to pieces and gorging themselves on carcasses, etc. The thing is, what I do with the species of pliosaur is, you have to take into account first the animal itself, and then you have to take into account 65.5 million years of evolution since the Cretaceous period. I, for example, equipped my pliosaurs with sonar, and we don't know that they had echolocation like toothed whales do, but we do know, for example, that we've discovered bones of theirs that have the same scarring, the bends it's called, like decompression sickness that sperm whales get when they ascend too quickly. So that strongly suggests that pliosaurs somehow had the ability to navigate into the abyss in the dark, moving around, etc., which suggests the possibility they, for example, had sonar. But in terms of the appetite for the animal, etc., I have these creatures imprisoned in a caldera, like a giant fish bowl, if you want to call it, for that entire time period. And their population ranges, which I think is explained in the novelette Diablo, but without getting into spoilers. So, but they're in there for that period of time in a giant 8 mile wide fish tank, we'll call it. Okay.
Hmm.
And there's plenty of prey, but there are also a lot of competition between them, which means that over evolution would, of course, imply that the strongest animals that were the most vicious, that healed the fastest, would be the ones that would pass on their genes for the
Right.
species, even developing a rudimentary intelligence of sort.
Hmm.
So that's why I felt like if they had like an elevated metabolism, if they were wounded and they would heal, not like Wolverine in the comic books,
Right.
but where a serious wound might heal in a day or two instead of taking weeks, let's
Right.
say. So that elevated metabolism would require the animal to feed more often. So
Yes.
one equates the other. So,
Yes.
but it
Okay.
does. There is a scene in there in the book where it's gorged and it's just lying on the surface, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I ate all that,"
Yeah,
that type of stuff. So,
he
we're not.
does. And then
Yeah.
yes, he ends up eating something else that, yeah, that one I honestly thought that character was going to get away, because usually the characters you don't like always end up getting away, but he was eaten pretty quickly and I was kind of grateful. He was a brat. I didn't like him. So
Was that Brad?
that was Brad. Yeah.
Yeah, Brad was a douche. Excuse my
He was just a
language.
jerk. And I love that his hand with his like diamond encrusted Rolex was still there. And I was like,
Well, there had to be a reason. I needed plausible deniability for why, the jet ski was still running.
yeah, yes,
And
yeah,
if the safety lanyard and the hand comes off,
that makes sense.
so yeah, hence the sundered forearm and hand in
Gotcha.
place. Plus, it's a scary thing to see.
Yes. No, yeah, it was traumatizing, I'm sure. And I love how the dad just kind of didn't even really care, which speaks to his personality. Okay. So I wasn't going to get into that. So basically, the premise of the book is that there's a volcano, and like you said, a fishbowl, and then something like the volcano erupts, and there's an earthquake. Anyway, this creature escapes. This creature that hasn't been seen, and it's not of this era, and it just terrorizes the ocean depth. So how likely do you think it is that there are actually creatures like that still living today that might be the reason for some water cryptid sightings? Not this one, for
Hmm.
instance, but the other kind of plesiosaur with the long neck, like Nessie.
Well, there have been some sightings. The one that I would think was most credible, gosh, I don't remember the details, but it was what's that submarine that Cousteau's people use? I don't remember the name of it. I wish I had thought of this ahead of time, but there was one expedition where a submersible was 5,000 feet down,
Hmm.
and I think the captain's name was McInnes or something like that. And they saw what they thought was um, like a telephone cable on the bottom of the sea there, and then it
Hmm.
moved, and they realized it was the neck, and it turned out to be like a 35-foot plesiosaur type animal that they were looking at and watching and through the portholes, etc. And then it moved away from them, and they kept seeing it in the distance, but they tried to get closer to take pictures, and it just wandered off. But their description and drawing is exactly that of a plesiosaur. I would think that mosasaurs, like the monster in Jurassic World, but not that big, okay,
Right.
are likely to still be around because I've researched scores of sightings, many around New Zealand and such.
Hmm.
But the most recent one that I'm aware of is a guy that I interviewed from the UK, and he was working on. It's actually in the new book I have coming out called Monsters and Marine Mysteries. And his name's Paul George. He was working on the Carnival Breeze. It's a
Hmm.
ocean liner, which
Right.
I tracked down in Florida and got photos of, etc. But
Okay.
and this was back in like 2014, I think, and not that long ago. And they were in the Gulf of Mexico. He was on the top deck. He was like a fitness instructor aboard, and a couple of passengers called him over and they asked him, "What kind of animal is that?" And he looks down, and swimming like 100 or 200 feet next to the ship is this gigantic thing. And he had seen whales, he had seen whale sharks, all sorts of stuff, in his time on the cruise line and other ships. And this was none of those. He said it was immense, and he was able to compare it to scale to their lifeboats that they have that they regularly put in the water next to the boat, and he
Yeah.
was familiar with, and which were visible down there. And he only saw this thing's head, neck, and shoulders, and like maybe part of its upper back. And he said that part alone was 50 feet long. So it was very, very large. And he didn't see what was propelling it, but he said it had a huge, like crocodile-like head, more like an alligator, a thick neck, enormous traps, as he put it, which may have been pectoral fins out to
Mm-hmm.
the sides that it, was like angling there. But it was just cruising along at the surface. It came up for air. He described how the water turned white as it exhaled, which I thought was interesting because it didn't blow like a whale. There wasn't
Right.
that violent whoosh or anything like
Right.
that. And if you look at how crocodiles and turtles, chelonians, etc., breathe when they come up, they just disperse bubbles, which is stealthier. But that's what explains. He said the water
Right.
turned white all around its head.
Yeah.
So it was obviously taking in air, and it cruised next to them for about 30 seconds, and then it veered off, and it went on its way. But he said it looked like a submarine. It was so big, like when its back broke the water, how it streams of a submarine.
Yeah.
Slick looking, smooth skin, blackish with maybe a little gray on it and stuff. He was astounded. I did 2 interviews with him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'm very
So-
jealous. He had a photo of it.
Really?
Actually. Yeah, with his cell phone as it was leaving. And then at the next port, something happened in a bar he was at, and his phone was gone. And yeah, so
Never fails.
Yeah.
Never fails.
But I put out there, if anybody else, any of the other passengers took a
Right.
photo of this, by all means, reach out to me, because
Yeah.
I mean, from the description, it sounds like an enormous, like 100-foot mosasaur, which there have been, like Hoovelman described, like a whale eater that was supposed to be that size, etc.
Mhm.
And the mosasaur-like creature that was killed in the 1800s by the whaler Monongahela and dissected is of the
Mhm.
similar proportions to what Paul saw swimming next to the Carnival Breeze. So, it's possible.
So I have to tell you something.
Mhm.
My husband and I are planning a beach vacation.
Mhm.
And we've been in talks about this for about a month now. And I'm reading your book. And I had to stop and ask him. Yeah, I had to stop and ask him. And I was like, how do you feel about like an inner beach? Like, that doesn't touch the ocean in any way. How do you feel about a lake? Just because, in the book and then in another interview that I listened to as well, you're like, you framed it perfectly. Like in a horror movie, you and a serial killer, at least you're on equal footing because you're both on land.
Mhm.
But in a water cryptid situation or a giant behemoth under the waves, it's so intimidating. It is so frightening to me.
Well, human beings are not the most formidable creatures out there. I mean, bereft of technology, we're pretty helpless. A chimpanzee that weighs 50 pounds less than me is 5 times my strength.
Right.
I mean, and in the water, poor Steve Irwin was killed by a stingray.
Yeah.
Which is not, a particularly dangerous creature, but his speed and agility. I mean, I saw the episode where he was chased by a Komodo dragon.
Oh my gosh.
Intrigued by it, and they have venom. So there's not much of an antidote for that stuff and all that slobber. And this couple 100 pounds of hungry lizard, it comes after him, and he's like, "Uh-oh, it smells the blood on my leg." He goes, "It's a food response. It's trying to eat me." And he's in the tree, and the thing keeps coming because they can climb trees.
Yeah.
And he's kicking it in the face calmly. It's trying to eat me. It's a food response. Like this, and it even lacerated his boot with its teeth.
Oh my goodness.
But he was able to escape and fight this thing off. A much more dangerous animal. So in the water, all of his agility, etc., was lost. And it's worse when you're on the surface, and you don't have oxygen tanks, and the water's dark or murky, and you can't see what's under you, and something touches you. You don't know if it's a jellyfish or a 20-foot great white.
Or a plesiosaur that's been extinct forever in it.
Or a mosasaur. That'd be a horrible death. Oh God.
I mean, this thing, it was like,
I brought you a mosasaur tooth, by the way.
oh, did you?
Yeah,
Okay,
there's
hold
one
on
right there. So,
just a second. Let me get, make sure this is okay. Okay. All right, go ahead.
no, it's just there's a tooth from a mosasaur, but
Okay,
this is
yeah,
from 65, 70 million years ago. Crown, root, that type of stuff. So,
that's insane. It's insane to me. I know that in the book you described, or Amara describes, she said, whales, it's like their teeth are made for krill and such, or, a bite and swallow type of thing. But plesiosaurs, or, pliosaurs specifically, their teeth were made for bite down and thrash until you get a chunk to eat,
yeah, well,
which is vaguely terrifying.
which is what happened to the one I showed you, because the punctures are on the center, on the surface of the centrum, so which means that this would have been connected to other backbones, but it
Right,
was ripped apart and in a thing's mouth like this. Yeah, I mean crocodiles do that. They have that wedge-shaped head with those
right.
powerful jaw muscles. They bite, they twist, they roll, they tear out a big chunk, and they swallow it. So if you're killing something to eat that's bigger than you can't swallow the whole thing, obviously. So there was a lot of big prey items in their world. Gigantic fish, sea turtles, all elasmosaurs. I mean, pliosaurs did eat other plesiosaurs and smaller
Yeah,
pliosaurs and pretty much anything they wanted. So.
it's scary. It it doesn't make me want to go in the water anytime soon, and I love the water. But um,
Well, it's my goal in life to cause bathing suit stocks to plummet because nobody wants to go in the water and they all sit on the sand.
that is true. It's very true.
Imagine.
I know I've gone. We went to the Bahamas a few years ago, and my brother and I, and we're both adults at this time. We went out and we went to where the the reef started, and so it kind of got dark right there, and we swam out there and we were just talking, and we both just kind of looked at each other, and it was for no reason whatsoever. We both freaked out and started swimming as hard as we could back to shore, and it was just too dark to see. And so it just got dark out there and it just got eerie, and so we swam as fast as, and we'd been snorkeling out in the depths, and all of that, but it was like just that unknown freaked us out completely.
I could be freaked out by unpleasant things approaching in the water. I was chased out of the water by a shark once, and last time I was in Hawaii, I there was an enormous fish under us. I think it was a giant trevally, but I'd rather have one of them than a hungry tiger shark or something like that.
Right.
So
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Um, Hold on just a second. I am having some technical difficulties. As in, I lost my entire screen, but I can still hear you, so we'll just keep talking. Yeah, so, okay, I wanted to go ahead and go into the cryptid side. So, okay, well, let's start first with, how did you even get into this topic of paleofiction, of all of that?
Well, as you probably heard in a previous interview, my dad was a big rock hound, so he was always wheeling and dealing in fossils and minerals and things of that nature. So I guess I got that love from him at an early age.
Right.
I'm more into fossils. He liked
Okay.
rocks too,
Yeah.
like a geode, big stuff like
Oh,
that.
geology.
Yeah.
I failed that class. I'm not gonna lie. The only class I've ever failed in my entire life was geology.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have Dennis Stone on last time, and then you. So if you want to not talk about rocks, I'm game.
I'm
It's
telling
not
you.
my strong point.
No, yeah, I'm friends with Professor Mark McMenamin from Mount Holyoke College, who developed the Triassic Kraken theory, and he's probably going to get mad at me for saying this, but whenever I call him and I get his cell phone, he's going to be like, it's going to be like, you reached the cell phone of Dr. Mark McMenamin, leave a message, etc., and I shall get back to you before the passage of a significant amount of geologic time. And I go, hey, Uber nerd, it's Max. Call me. That's what I call
Oh
an
my,
uber nerd. Okay.
I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen to this episode and change my voicemail now. I'm
But
pretty sure it
yeah,
deters telemarketers.
before the passage of a significant amount of geological time. What? But anyway, so yeah, so my dad was into all this stuff, and I grew up being surrounded by giant shark teeth and mammoth bones and all sorts of things like that, and watching Star Trek and having prehistoric scenes model kits and
Yeah.
all. So I was really into prehistoric creatures growing up, and then I got it heavily into fishing also. So the water aspect of it and that they sort of
Hmm.
combined, and I eventually, like, gosh, so many years ago, but had this idea about doing Kronos Rising in my head, and it just the whole thing with the spoiler with the how I imprisoned these creatures in this caldera,
Right.
like to create this ability that was so believable that it could actually you could feel it could actually happen. Kind of like the
Yeah.
Wollemi pines in Australia. They're Jurassic era trees that have been in a
Right.
secluded little valley, protected from the elements for 150 million years or something like that.
It
So,
reminded me of Lost World, or
mhm.
not Lost. Um, oh my God.
Skull Island, King Kong,
No, kind of, yeah. Something along those lines, or Lost World, or
yeah, with the plateau.
um, or oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm forgetting the name of that movie. The Center of the Earth. That
Journey
one.
to the Center of the Earth,
Yes,
with the remake with Brendan Fraser.
yes. How could
Yes.
I forget? He's amazing. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of what it reminded me of in the book was just that there was a place that was protected that all of a sudden it's unleashed on the world. It's kind of the premise, and so that's what it reminded me of. Even though I can't believe I forgot that.
And it was cool because also I got to, it wasn't just the animal itself. There were other things in the lake inside the caldera. It's
Right.
forage base, which in and of themselves are dangerous. Like the
Yes.
prehistoric fish Zipfactinus, which they call the bulldog fish. They got to be as
Hmm.
big as a great white, and it was a pack hunter and a carnivore. And the things that it ate that were 5 or 6 feet long and had huge fangs. I mean, it's an
Yeah.
unpleasant environment. You wouldn't want to go skinny dipping in
No. It's
Diablo
like the
Caldera.
things the
Uh,
things that are eaten there, that are prey there, are absolutely predators to us. I mean, it was very intimidating. I thought it was great how you played that. Like it like leveled up, like, okay, here's this weird ancient threat, but wait, there's more. That's kind of how like the book kept
but
going.
wait,
But wait. um so I mean, you grew up in this, and I'm gonna make you tell the story. You thought you were gonna get out of it, but you cannot. Um,
which
you
story is
grew
this?
up
Uh,
with
I'm
with
afraid
these.
now.
You grew up with these fossils surrounding you.
Hmm.
Normal kids do not. I just want to let you know. I grew up with a Bigfoot researcher for a mother, and
Hmm.
to me, it would be weird to have fossils all around me. So, did you ever take one of those fossils for show and tell, or do any shenanigans with those fossils?
You want me to tell the story
I
about?
want you to tell the story.
All right.
It's too good.
I don't remember how old I was. I think I was around 12 or 13, something like that. And lived in Southwest Philly at the time. And I used to go regularly. I had a membership to the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philly. It's a
Hmm.
nice little museum. It has like a whole dinosaurs. And I was always bothering the guys to take me down to the wild animal room that they had in the basement.
Yeah.
Biggest snapping turtle I ever saw in my life and stuff. They played a practical joke or two on me, those guys. But anyway, and at the time, the Academy used to have this thing called a trading post, and it was really great. I mean, it
Right.
was like set up with like made out of trees and all this stuff, very like,
Hmm.
and so you could go there and you could bring them things and you could trade things with them in order to get something different, polished stones, this and that, all this stuff. And it was my mom's birthday was coming up, and I wanted to get her something nice. And so I brought all these like polished stones I had, agates, and all this other stuff and everything. And I wanted this sable antelope horn that they had up there. It was like
Hmm.
big, curved, gorgeous, black. And I was wheeling and dealing with the guy. I remember I'm like a 12-year-old kid. He's like, I'm sorry, kid, that's you just don't have enough. And then I was like, I'm gonna have to go for broke on this. I said, well, how about this? And I pull out my dad's prize megalodon tooth in a box and I sit it down. and it was a beauty. It was one of those Bone Valley megalodon teeth that has like the white root and the pitch black crown. Gorgeous. I mean, it wasn't gigantic. I think it was around 4 inches or something like that, but it was perfect. Serrations, all this stuff. I mean, now
Oh no.
that tooth now would probably go for $800-900 at least, something like that.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, wow. He's like, that's And then he didn't want to like give away the story. He's like, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. If you give me the stones and the tooth,
No.
I'll give you the horn. And I'm like,
Awful.
deal. Like, and I brought it home, and my mom loved it. I was like this hero and all this stuff. And every so often, my dad would be like, "Hey Max, have you seen my big shark tooth?" And I'd be like, "Nope, not a clue. Haven't seen it. Gotta go."
Oh my gosh. I mean, at
So
least your motivations were kind of altruistic.
yeah,
It's like,
the
Mom, I love you so much. Instead of flowers, here's this.
yes. Oh no, she really loved it. She had it hanging up in their room and all this stuff. It was like this, I wanted something like you could like on. It didn't
Yeah,
have the ability to do that, but it was just a really
it
gorgeous
was cool.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know if I ever confessed. I know I didn't do it when I was young enough to be beaten and stuff, but a couple years back, I might have, after a beer or two, said, like, oh, by the way, Dad, I never told you. But
Oh my gosh.
he was
Like
like,
I just can't imagine. Oh my gosh. I find that so funny just because it's like because it was just laying around for you to do, that just speaks to your upbringing and why you got into this area of expertise kind of.
yeah, but now I have this gigantic fossil collection of my own. But I don't worry about my daughter like taking anything off and selling it or trading it
Hmm.
because we have a deal that when I kick it, it's all hers. So she knows she's getting
Oh,
everything anyway. So it's safe.
so it actually hurts her if she steals
Yeah,
some of your stuff.
because they
Okay.
go up in value over time. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
of course.
yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that story.
Hey,
Um,
listen, I'm
it
safe
was
now. So
yes, unfortunately. Um, okay, so you are a world record holding angler, and I have some questions from the chat on whether you do freshwater or saltwater or both.
I have fished. It seems like 50-50, although like I bought a boat back in '04 to take the old man,
Mhm.
fishing a lot. Um, so we did a lot of everything, but I fished Alaska, Hawaii, Florida, Montauk.
Mhm.
I actually, in Montauk, I caught what would have been the world record blue shark to this day. It was a 700 something pound shark, but
Man,
I didn't want to kill the shark, so we
yeah,
cut it loose. It was very angry anyway. It was like hissing. I was like, whoa.
you
But
would think,
yeah, but I've done a mixed bag. I do a lot of lake fishing. I do pond fishing.
Hmm.
Saltwater stuff now I do more like with charters, things like that.
Right.
I have somebody who it's their backyard. They know the lay of the land and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I don't have to deal with a saltwater boat. But and I
Yeah,
also even fish when I'm editing, weather permitting.
really.
Yeah, I'll actually
I could
go
see
to
that.
a lake. It's the best. You're getting
Yeah,
paid to fish, in my opinion. And I'll take
yeah,
a chapter, whatever book I'm working on, and I'll go to a local lake, and I'll sit under a willow tree with a folding chair and a little cooler and a stack of editing, and I'll put out a
yeah,
couple of rods with some bait,
yep,
depending on what I'm fishing for, and in holders, and then I just start working. And this way, I'm not bored. And then every
yeah,
15 or 30 minutes, zzz, one rod
yeah,
starts screaming, and I drop my stuff, and I hook the fish, and I fight the fish, and God willing, I land the fish, and then I take a picture or have somebody take a picture, and then I let it go, and then I get all the slime off my hands, and I bring
yes,
wet wipes, and stuff. And
yeah.
my editor's like, "Why is this chapter smell like mackerel?" I'm like, I didn't shower. I'm sorry. I was working so hard.
I
But
cannot think of a better way to work. I really cannot.
yeah,
That's why
the
your
la-
books are so good. That's the secret. Fish slime
yeah.
gives it an air of authenticity.
The last time some woman was trying to pick me up at the lake, she sent her son over. It was a whole. It was a
Oh
setup. I
no.
could see it right away. I was like, oh, this ain't because they think, oh my God, is he a writer? Is he an editor? He must be intelligent. He works with books. Ooh, I don't see any wedding ring. Anyway, sorry.
That's the problem right there. You're not you're not the sheriff wearing
Hmm.
his wedding ring no matter what.
My ring was actually burned up in a truck fire years back. You probably don't know that story. I was trapped in a burning
Mm,
SUV.
no.
Yeah, and
No.
literally locked in, and it was on fire. It was a whole big thing, and I had to
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah, and my ring had been one of the things. And then I got out, and 30 seconds later, the truck blew up. It was a fireball
Oh
and
my
stuff.
gosh.
Yeah,
Do
but
you
I don't want to
use
bore you.
that?
But there's no cryptids in it, so
I don't want to bore you. Almost losing my
yeah.
life. It's fine. So did you ever use that in any of your books? That
Well, I've had a lot of near-death experiences, and for some reason, I'm remarkably cool under pressure. Like
Mhm.
I realized when the truck lost power and everything, and then all the gray stuff came out, it turned black, and the flames started coming out of the where the wipers are. I knew there was a problem, and then I tried to
Mhm.
open the door, and it was locked because there was no power. The power locks weren't working, and then
Right.
I saw the smoke starting coming in. So I was like, "All right, I got to get out of here." And then right then you hear panic, like tapping you on the shoulder, going,
Yes.
"You're gonna die," like that. And I was like, "Get out of here!" And I sucked in a big breath, which had a
Yeah.
little smoke in it. Okay, but it was better than what was coming next. And then the whole cockpit was filled with smoke, or cabin, whatever you want to call it. And all I could see was the yellow from the flames. And I managed to get out of there and what, but yeah, it's a frightening thing. The going through all this stuff, it contributes to making you a better writer. You know,
Mhm.
and then I
Yeah.
got yelled at by my wife because after like the cops and the firefighters and all this other stuff, and then I wanted to go to the gym and go jogging, and instead she made me go to the hospital and be treated for smoke inhalation, which I did have, but I wanted to go jogging
From
instead.
her point of view, I mean, what a nag, am I right?
I
I can't
know,
believe she
right? Like,
made you go to the hospital.
geez, Mary and Joseph, what is wrong with you? But yeah, I mean, things. I've been shot at. I mean,
My
I've
God.
all sorts of stuff. I've done some stupid things when I was younger. There's one thing on my blog where in the dark I found this kid, freshman in the dorm, who'd hung himself, and I came face to face with his body in the dark, and he'd been hanging there for days. The poor guy. I mean, it was just, and ugh, it was
Yeah.
just so you have all these experiences. You can relay these things, the horror, the terror, how your heart is pounding,
Right.
it sinks into your stomach. I mean, all this
Yeah.
stuff loans itself to more realistic writing.
I
And
could see that. I could see
fortunately,
that.
my office now is much safer and more secluded. If I panned up, you'd see giant fish. Here, I'll show you.
Yeah.
See, there's like giant fish all over the
Ah, there we go.
walls and
Look at that.
stuff. See, so anyway,
My
but
I'm very
so
glad that my husband's not interviewing you because it would literally be like it would be nonstop fish conversation, which, yeah. So I'm gonna keep it back to this, but yeah, that right there would have been a 30-minute conversation, the giant fish on your wall. Just letting you know. You dodged a bullet by having me.
one of my proudest moments. I don't want to digress, but just take a second.
Yeah, no problem.
My little girl had one of her friends over for a play date last year before the COVID thing, and the doors to my office were open, and the girl's dad and brother, who was like 12 or something like that, came, and the boy was walking around the house, and he passed by my office. I was working, and he stops in the doorway of my office. He looks up and he sees these giant, like 7-foot fish and stuff, and he's like, "Oh my God," like that. And I looked at him,
Yeah.
and I was like, "That's right." Like and I was like, "Yes."
Oh my gosh, that is
All that alone was
hilarious.
worth the expense of all the taxidermy mounts and the trips and stuff like that.
The taxidermy, the trip, the
Yeah,
gear,
yeah.
all of it.
The
Oh my
look on his
gosh, that's
face.
hilarious. My husband would probably have that same reaction just walking by your office. So what is the strangest encounter you've had while you've been deep sea fishing? You had any that just like kind of stood out to you?
Hmm. Well, I think it's funny because I've encountered a few cryptids in my day,
Mm-hmm.
um, but they haven't been like for somebody who's been on the water hundreds and hundreds of times. You would think I would encounter like a mega squid or a sea serpent or
Yeah.
a shark the size of a stretch limousine or something like that. Um, it doesn't seem to happen. Maybe I'm not going far enough out, or maybe they just don't want to give me any publicity, But there was one time I was in fishing in Florida. Gosh, it was the phosphate docks down there on the Gulf Coast and near Boca Grande.
Hmm.
And we were fishing for Goliath grouper. And
Yeah.
these are big fish. I mean, I've landed fish over 400 pounds. I lost a 600 pounder right next to the boat. So there's this really deep hole near the phosphate docks where sometimes very large, unpleasant things loiter in this hole. So we were hauling in fish, and most of the grouper were all pretty big. I mean, 250, 350 pounds and stuff. And I had a fish on it, and then all of a sudden, something like on the sonar, something big came up out of the hole and just took it. And I got yanked sideways into the poling platform. That's where like the guys in shallow water stand with the poles and stuff.
Yeah.
And then almost like ripped across and then almost went in. And I'm holding on for dear life. And there was this, the captain, he liked to use steel leader, like cable,
Yeah.
like the first 100 feet. And whatever this thing was, it started tearing off this like 500-pound test steel leader like it was nothing. And I'm just holding on for dear life. And then it got to the mono, which is 400-pound test, and snapped it like it was nothing. So it was able to exert at least 400 pounds of pressure
Yeah.
to break that mono. And then it snapped the rod in half. I mean, like, and I was left there like an idiot. And then when it took off, it left a huge swirl, and the swirl was almost as big as my office. I mean, it looked like a hippopotamus had surfaced and then rolled or something like that. Never saw it, never knew what it was. My guide thought it was one of these like 1,000-pound grouper. He's like, man, I
Hmm.
bet that was one of them 1,000-pound groupers people say they see, but nobody ever hooks one because you can't handle them. And I'm like, well, no, but we need a new rod. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
That's, I
my
mean, I've
cryptid
I've
encounters
seen
have
that
been.
before. We watch a lot of YouTube fishing stuff in my house. It's either dinosaurs or fishing all the time. Um,
I like
but
this.
yeah, but we've but we've seen that. Cyril Sheke is like one of our favorites, and or Sheko. We've watched his series about 6,000 million times. But he goes after that quite a bit, and they're huge. They're like the size of Volkswagen Bugs,
But
and
this thing must have eaten a 200-pound grouper,
it's
is what I'm saying.
insane.
So
Yeah,
you're getting some megalodon questions on there.
I am not seeing it. Hold on,
Oh, so do you think it possible
I
a
just
mega?
see it. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. Do you? So do you think that?
Well, actually, a big section in the cryptid book that's out. Well, it's in pre-sale now. Has I investigated a lot of mega shark sightings and stuff,
Hmm.
and I uncovered some incredible evidence. In fact, there's if people go on the YouTube channel, it's Max Hawthorne's, I think book trailers, video trailers, or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, for the new book, it actually has a photo in there of one of these pieces of evidence. But I started off with great white sharks, and a friend of mine who's a whale researcher uh, measured, live on video, bites, huge bites and bite marks on whale carcasses.
Hmm.
So these aren't old bites that stretched or grew with the whale or
Right.
something like that. And this one, like 40-foot humpback, had two bites on it. One, they were from the same shark. And the smaller bite, where the shark didn't have to open its mouth as wide, was 31 inches high. The larger bite was like 38 or 39 inches high. And I crunched, and this is from a great white. You can see the
Hmm.
shape and everything like that, immense. And using the most conservative formulas out there. I mean, I went through the different formulas, and some of the projections were insane. I mean, they were saying 30, 35 feet and stuff like that. But the smallest, most conservative estimate I could get was like close to 26 feet. The shark that was feeding on this whale. And that's
Holy
legit, right?
mackerel!
There's no getting around it or anything like that. I checked out the so there was a documentary on the super predator a few years back, and they thought that there might be a 35-foot white shark out there, like some sort of mutated version or
Right.
supersized or something like that. And they showed a pygmy blue whale pygmy being like 70 feet long, and it had a long-heeled scar on its peduncle that was a shark bite.
Right.
And they were crunching numbers on that and stuff. And I checked that out, and that particular bite had elongated. It didn't grow, but it kind of flattened down because it was on the top of the peduncle where it was moving up and down and stuff like that. So it went like this. But even when I adjusted for the curve, the shark that attacked it was probably between 26 and 30 feet long. But there is a whale shark that was photographed in 2017 by Simon J. Pierce, the marine biologist, who's great. And this shark was a 40-foot whale shark. So that's a big whale shark. Okay. And it has a 4-foot bite taken out of its flank. And, a lot of people will say, the bite stretched or grew, but it hasn't. If you look at it and you look at the research I've done where you see like white shark bites on whale shark and how they fill in over a year and a half and stuff like that, their healing is incredible. This bite, you could still see tooth marks on it. So I believe it's relatively fresh. When I say fresh, a year and a half old, something like that type of thing.
Yeah.
And the numbers indicate with the most conservative formulas from elasmobranchologists that the attacker was the same size as the whale shark. So
that's insane.
But I don't think the teeth suggest a megalodon. That's the strange part. They're very pointy. Like a large megalodon has like its primary like maxillary teeth are a little more rounded.
Okay.
And I would say that the guys who think there's either a supersized white shark out there might be right. My cat is trying to break into my office, but I chained the door. He's very angry out there and stuff. But he ruined it. And a guest started in an interview before, like live, his tail started coming across like a flag. And next
oh
thing,
my gosh,
20-pound cat on the loose. But but there is a relative of megalodons called Otodus tributensis, which got to be approximately the size of that whale shark and had more triangular white shark-like teeth. So it's very strange. There is some sort of, in my opinion, and I collected plenty of evidence, huge macro-predatory shark out there. There's just not a lot of them. We're just not seeing them. And I'll tell you something else, and I couldn't put it in the book because I couldn't get like approval on it for copyright purposes, etc. But like 6-7 years ago, somebody, and I don't know who it was, and that's the problem, sent me a photo of a humpback whale like sounding, and its flukes were above the surface of the water there, and there was a relatively fresh shark bite taken out of one of the lobes of its flukes, and the bite, you could see like individual tooth marks, hunks of blubber or stuff, and it was like a nick, like the thing came after it, tried to get it by the flukes, failed, but did some little bit of damage. And it's undeniably a shark bite, and it's almost the width of the flukes. So you got to say, well, how big is this humpback, which we don't know.
Right.
Being conservative, one would say it's probably a younger one or something like that. But even if that's true, it suggests a shark bite at least as big as the one that was on that whale shark. And if it's an adult humpback that has 10 to 12 foot flukes, as they usually do, that suggests a shark with a bite radius of 5 or 6 feet. So but I can't share it because I don't, for
copyright.
Yeah, I'm not going to get hung out to dry or something like that. But I'm sitting on this photo, and it's like, but yeah, there's something out there. There is some sort of big.
I mean, at least for your own purposes of writing and researching. I mean, that gives you, you have that for your own purposes. That doesn't help me any, but I mean, it's good for you and everything you're doing, and kind of helps motivate you to keep going. I'm sitting on evidence photos for Bigfoot stuff that I will never share because the person doesn't want me to, but it helps me feel motivated to keep doing what I do. So
Definitely.
At least there's that. Weird Realities would like to know, do you think there could be one in the Mariana Trench? And I believe she's referring to like the megalodon shark and such.
I wouldn't think so because of the fact that, first, there'd be no reason for a megalodon to go down into the trench. Megalodon fed on whales. In my opinion, the larger adults were more geared towards scavenging carcasses. The mid-sized and small ones were active hunters. But whales are more near the surface.
Hmm.
The only whales that typically go deep like that would be something like a sperm whale, and sperm whales are capable of defending themselves.
Hmm.
So, if you were a megalodon shark, you wouldn't be going down there. I mean, your bread and butter is at the surface or the first
Right.
3, 4, 500 feet, something like
Yeah.
that. So I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, you do get deep sea sharks like the six gills and things like that are quite sizable that are down there. Um, so they could be 20, maybe 25 feet or more. I've
Right.
seen some footage, but I don't think you're going to have a predator that's designed to prey on cetaceans, you know, subjecting
Yeah.
itself to all that pressure and darkness and its prey item being elsewhere.
Well, that is also explained in the book, should you choose to read it, which I highly recommend you do. It explains kind of the changes that the predators' bodies go through the farther they sink down. And then when they finally do get down to the bottom of the trench, what prey items are down there, which at one point there's like a giant squid down there to eat, but other than that, not much else. So, um,
But you do get whale carcasses sometimes that drift
mhm,
down. It's called whale fall. Um,
mhm,
but these are carcasses that have been usually typically adrift for some time, weeks or even months. A lot of times they're fairly stripped
mhm,
of the juicy bits, shall we say.
right.
And then they get down there and the scavengers, have their way with them.
Yes.
Hagfish and crustaceans. And I mean, there
Oh,
was
yes,
footage
yes,
out
yes.
recently of a group of octopuses eating a whale carcass, a whole bunch of them all
Yes.
over it. And I was like, yeah, those are the babies of the giant octopuses I have in my next book. So,
Oh my gosh. No spoilers. I told you.
oh,
Okay, no spoilers. Okay,
well, the
what
title's kind of a giveaway. Kraken.
crap? Okay, fine. I won't. I'm just going to order the next book and pre-order the book we're going to talk about here in a second.
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you. What is the most plausible dino cryptid sighting in your opinion? And then we are going to go into straight cryptids.
Okay. Dino meaning something in the water. I mean, I don't like all I know about it are the things that the marine stuff for the most part. I mean, I've
That's
heard of
fine. We'll
stuff,
go with
stories
that.
about Mokele Mbemba and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I, put a lot of salt in that. I mean, some people have theorized that it's possible that there's a relic population of Spinosaurus aegypticus loitering somewhere, eking out an existence. I find it unlikely, but it might explain some of the sightings, the frill, the sail on the
Mm-hmm.
back, I mean, and stuff like that. And it would be an aquatic animal, like a crocodile. It would be in the water most of the time. But I think that the most likely, the odds of us finding a living marine reptile from the Cretaceous is either going to be a mosasaur or a long-necked plesiosaur type. But it would
Okay.
be in a marine environment, almost
Mm-hmm.
very unlikely that it would be in a lake.
Okay.
Just the law of averages, the space, the food supply, and everything else
Yes.
like that.
I did have another question from Stephen Hill. Hold on a second. What are your thoughts on giant squids living in blue holes?
Like the Luska, that type of thing. I think it's more likely you're going to have an octopus. A squid is
Mm-hmm.
they're all over the place. They have a wide hunting territory. They move up and down the water column depending on
Mm-hmm.
light and things of that nature. Octopi are more likely to stake out a territory and hang there, etc. There was one show, I don't know who it was, where they were looking at one of these blue holes where the Luska in the Bahamas, an immense octopus, supposed to live, and they saw something, a huge signal that was coming up through supposedly up the wall or whatever where they were at, and they just ran for their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm a firm believer that there are giant octopi out there. I interviewed someone who off the coast of Florida. It's in the new book, in fact. Him and
Okay.
a couple of his friends had an encounter with it, an octopus that they said was 80 or 90 feet long, like that. And they saw the arm was like checking out their boat and stuff, the tentacle, and they
Oh
stood there
God,
watching
that
it.
gives me
It was
chills.
right there. And
That gives me chills.
but squid you would find more out in the open water.
Okay.
So, especially really
Okay.
big squid.
I was part of I'm part of this clubhouse on it's for iPhones, and it's a crypto clubhouse, and we did a water cryptid session, and it was right before this show. So I was sitting there taking notes, you know.
Hmm.
But I did the Oklahoma octopus, which is a hoax. It's not real.
Hmm.
But I did learn a lot about how octopi can become freshwater and how far they travel away from the oceans, which I did not know before doing all that research. But they're very adaptable.
They're amazing animals. They dream. There's footage out of they can change color and texture and
Hmm.
all sorts of things like that. They're masters of camouflage. Their brains are larger than many mammals, and that's only the portion that's in their mantle and their quote head. They also
Yeah.
have 2/3 of their neurons are in their tentacles. An
Okay.
octopus can actually assign three of its tentacles a task and then think about something else, and the arms will still do it.
I need that ability as a mother. That would be fantastic.
Can you imagine? Or as a writer, I could watch television while penning the next book.
Absolutely. We need somebody to just put all this aside and work on that. Science, what are you doing? We don't need hover cars. We need to be able to do this, okay? That would be fabulous. So going into your new book,
Hmm.
Monsters and Marine Mysteries, available for pre-order now
Yes, on Amazon.
on Amazon.
Yes,
So we have whale-eating squid, sharks the size of whales, and a swimming Bigfoot.
yes. That I
So,
saw myself.
yes. So what can you tell me about that experience?
About the hairy red thing, as we called it. Um, well, it's funny because at the time I didn't really understand. This is like 30 years ago.
Hmm.
Okay, I didn't understand what it was I was looking at. It wasn't until I started doing research on a lot of things, including Sasquatch, etc., that I was like, "Oh my God!" So that's what that was. But so I was, my family, we used to have a house on the shore of Candlewood Lake in Danbury, Connecticut, and which was great. I'd spend like so many, summers up there fishing the lake and stuff. And Candlewood Lake is very big. It has like 50 miles of coastline. It's parts of it are like a national park. There's a lot of wilderness around parts of it, but there's also dwellings on certain parts of it as well.
Hmm.
And so this happened at a place called Squance Pond, and Squance is part of Candlewood, but it's by itself. Like they're sort of connected. It's two parts of the same lake, and it's part of that national park that I aspect. And
Right.
so me and my brothers, we would like to go to Squance and go fishing. We didn't have a boat or access to a boat at this point. So we decided we were going to go fish the causeway, as it's called, which is a road that's been constructed between Candlewood itself and Squance. So it's a
Right.
very narrow, like 2-lane road, and it's formed of like chunks of big chunks of rock and gravel that they piled up. Okay, and then there's
Yeah.
like a concrete and steel reinforced, I guess, tube. I don't know how wide it is, maybe 5 or 6 feet wide, that goes between the two lakes underwater, and this
Right.
allows the fish and other animals, aquatic
Hmm.
animals, muskrat, etc., to travel back and forth between the two lakes. Okay, just setting the stage.
Oh yeah.
So, so
As a
we
writer.
yeah, and so we go there, and we were there at the crack of dawn, and it had, I don't know if it was a weekend or a weekday, but it had been raining like all night, and it was still cloudy out, and it was probably pretty dumb of us to go fishing, but it had stopped raining, so we got there at like dawn and set up shop on the Squance side of this causeway. So we're sitting on this angled pile of like gravel and rocks there, and then we've got the
Right.
lake out there, and there was a bit of mist on the lake, and it was gloomy out, and there was nobody out. I mean, it was very like dead. So I don't know if it might have been a weekday where people were still in bed, or a weekend. I have no idea. Like I said, it was about 30 years ago. But so we were using live minnows for bait. We threw out a bunch of them there under bobbers, and we let them sit there. And 20, 30 minutes passed, and nothing was happening. So my two brothers decided, all right, we're going to go fish the other side. So I was like, all right, I'll stay here. I was thinking, I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to haul in like a lunker bass while you're over there missing out and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So they went up and they crossed the little road and then went the other side. So it's kind of like you go up, cross, down. They were
Hmm.
maybe 100 feet away from me, like if it was a straight line. Okay.
Hmm.
And so I'm sitting there and nothing's happening. And then I see this thing in the water, and it was kind of far at first. It might have been 100 to 200 feet away, something like that. It would come to the surface, and there was a little disturbance, and then it would all go under again. And then it would come up again, but it was a little closer this time, and then it would go under again. And as it started getting closer, I started like looking at it, and I'm like, this thing is like covered with hair. It was like reddish orange kind of color, sort of like a
Hmm.
beaver. Okay, so at first I thought it was a beaver, but then as it got a little closer and everything, and I was like looking up, stood up, and I was looking at it, I could see it wasn't a beaver. It was much too big. It had a head that was, I don't know, like yay big, and there was like a body of some sort behind it that was kind of elongated out there, and it would come up, like I said, and then it would go back down. I think it was eating stuff off the bottom or something like that. The water was very murky, like a coffee color from all the
Hmm.
runoff from all the rain and stuff. And there's a lot of crayfish around there, especially because of all the
Okay.
rocks and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So that might have been whatever this thing was, whatever it was doing. And as it got closer, and it was still, I'm going to say, at least maybe 75 feet away or 100 feet away at this point, I started thinking, is that a deer? But deer don't
Yeah.
have like a dome-shaped head,
Right.
or anything like that. I'm like, that's not a deer. I'm like, it must be a big Irish setter. And that's what I was trying to
Hmm.
convince myself, that it was an Irish setter, because it was about 5 feet long. And I'm like, it doesn't look like an Irish setter. I'm like, what is this? And you could kind of see like legs behind it. And when it swam, it didn't swim like a person. Like there was no flutter kick. Its legs moved
Right.
together, like you see, like when girls wear a mermaid suit.
I was gonna say that. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. Except it wasn't a mermaid, obviously, and stuff.
Right.
And it would swim like this, would go under, and then it would come up, and it was like another 10 feet closer, or something like that. And eventually, it was about, I'm guessing here, I'm going to use the length of the house here, maybe 60 feet away when this happened. And it
Hmm.
came up, and I saw the head. It was definitely dome shaped, and it was hairy, and there was water running off of it. And I was like, I got to see what this is. So I went to like move up higher on the hill with the rocks and stuff to, improve my vantage point. And as I did, I guess I dislodged like, some rocks a little
Hmm.
bit. It's slippery footing, and it must have heard me. And then it went to dive. And this was the part that freaked me out, is that as it went to dive, its arm broke the surface. This one, the left one. And I saw its upper arm, its elbow. It had this distinctive elbow and its
Hmm.
forearm like this. And they broke the surface, like this much was sticking out. And you could see the long hair, water streaming off it. It went like that. And then it went under real fast. And then it was swimming straight for the tunnel between the two lakes.
Yeah.
And I was like looking, and I couldn't see it, but I saw the disturbance as it went through like this. So I ran up and I ran across the road, almost got killed by a car, and because I'm an idiot. But I went to the other side. I'm like, guys, look. There's a hairy red thing. That's how I described it. A big
Yeah.
hairy red thing. I said, it has like arms. I said, and it's going to be coming through right now. And I think it got through. I think it beat me, honestly, going
Yeah.
through,
Yeah.
because as soon as I said that, like there was all these lily pads, which are great bass habitat and stuff, on the
Hmm.
shore there, maybe 100 feet from us, and that
Hmm.
way. And all of a sudden there was like this disturbance in the lily pads, like something was moving through there. But we couldn't, see what it was. And they were like, that's just a big fish or something like that. And,
Yeah.
that's what happened. I got no picture. And I was like, I'm telling you, it had arms. I saw it. Its arms were the size of mine, but it
Yeah.
was, and I have pretty big arms. I'm not trying to brag, but I'm 6'1". This thing was like 5 feet long. I'm not flexing or anything like that. All right. But, no, but it was like, it was like covered with hair, like
Right.
long hair and stuff. And so it didn't dawn on me until many, many years later that this was some sort of like primate. And when I
Yeah.
was doing research for the Monsters and Marine Mystery book, I found at one point something from like 1918 or something like that. And like saying how it was like in an old paper that fishermen on the lake had described a, this is a quote, hairy wild child in the
Hmm.
water.
Yeah.
Okay, there. So, and back then nobody used the term Bigfoot because it hadn't
Right.
been coined, and that's what they used to call. I found out, these creatures, but this was a small one. So I'm assuming it was a juvenile, and it was, maybe breaking rules and eating crayfish, and I
And
don't know.
it sounds like it was just snorkeling for crayfish.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're easy to catch. You turn over
yeah.
rocks, and there they are. You
Yeah,
know.
I mean, my kids, we go to the creek every year and catch them, and I mean,
Hmm.
just like that. Except we don't snorkel; we just kind of like cruise along. But I've had other encounters given to me of drownings in lakes and rivers of something pulling them under, and
That wouldn't be fun.
of hands, big hands grabbing them, of sightings of Bigfoot cryptid type creatures swimming under the water and coming up out of the water, and of underground caves where cryptids
Hmm.
like Bigfoot have come out and gone back in. So I mean, it's not that off the mark to think that this is a source of their food and where they hang out, and you just happen to be the lucky one to catch one coming across there.
I was going to tell my brothers. I said I was thinking like if you get a lure and you could cast it like a crankbait and try and snag it, but that
Yeah.
probably wouldn't go over too well.
I don't think so. No,
Yeah,
I think it's probably for the best that you handled it the way you did.
yeah. I've
Um,
had alligators on my line,
yeah,
and they're not happy about it. So you know,
yeah. No, so monsters and marine mysteries, and that's a fantastic encounter you give, by the way.
thank you very much.
Um, so you've done a lot of research and a lot of witness encounters through that, correct?
Oh gosh, yeah, that was it was really great. There's like three or four or five, I forget people, but I got to interview people that nobody knows are still alive that have seen things like from 1976
Hmm.
and 1969 and stuff like that. I mean, they're older gentlemen now, but people that have like incredible things. I got to talk to the only one who's left that saw, what was it they were calling it, the Cape Sable Serpent.
Hmm.
Okay.
I haven't heard of
Um,
that one yet.
yeah, well, but really, he said he had no idea where they came up with that name because they were calling it the Southside Sea Monster. But these
Okay.
are like Canadian fishermen from 1976. A group of them over like a 5 day span, every other day, were all attacked and chased by the same immense marine predator. And this thing, like, to me, I think it sounds like a mutated like goosefish or something like that from the
Hmm.
description. Um, but it was like 50 or 60 feet long, and it attacked their boats and chased them. And it was in the newspapers and everything. I put the newspapers in there and all this
Yeah.
other stuff. But yeah, he described me in full detail. And being somebody who has experience in the water, I was like very, like every aspect of it, weather, visibility, time. What were you fishing for? Were you anchored up? Weren't you? What were you using for bait? What was the fishing technique? I mean, I got so much information from this guy, and he was a teenager when
Yeah.
this happened, and him and his father were almost eaten by this monster. And it's so, but the thing is so much of the stuff is wrong from the cryptid files that exist on these sightings,
Right.
because it was three different groups of fishermen attacked in 1976. But it was like right around the 4th of July back then, and
Hmm.
not everything wasn't wrong, but people took artistic liberties or what the illustrations, and it was also strange. There was, I think, some disinformation done about this because he said that some
Yeah.
person showed up at their house and he wanted them to describe in detail the creature that they saw, and they
Right.
had an artist with them, and they drew it, and it was exactly what they saw. And he said, okay, yeah, it'll be in the papers. And they left and gave him no information. And then what appears in the paper is some long, snaky looking serpent thing. Looked
Hmm.
nothing like what they said, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like I encountered a lot of that also.
That was my next question was, did you run into that with anything
Mm.
else?
Oh gosh. There was a sighting in Sanibel, this couple. There's a pretty famous video out there where they they saw something pass under their boat and then grab a manatee and take it. Okay. And I got
Holy
approval to
cow.
use frames from the video and everything. And he was telling me how it was weird how when they gave it to somebody to put on YouTube, the quality, HD quality was lost, like the
Hmm.
footage. But what's worse is, you know what fogging is?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so you ever see somebody like that goes on and they're like testifying against like some psychopath or something like that, or the mob, and their face
Right.
is blocked out, or
Okay, yes.
or if you have a
Yes.
video and you don't have approval to use somebody's
Right.
face, then
I didn't know that's what that was called.
yeah, they put like this pixelated thing around them and stuff
Yes.
like that. It's called fogging. So as I was going through frames of this thing and looking at it, somebody did that. There are a
Hmm.
bunch of key frames where somebody, frame by frame, fogged out the juicy bits, the good stuff. Okay. And I
That is
have the
crazy.
stills in my book, and you can see, even in black and white images, you can see the square where it's been
Right.
fogged and multiple squares into somebody. So somebody went through this video footage and
Hmm.
took out, hid the evidence. And I believe it's like because people were saying, oh, it's just a manatee rolling on the surface. But it's not, in my opinion. It's something grabbing
Hmm.
a manatee, and they don't want you to see that. So they hid like whatever this stuff would be, the manatee's face, what wraps
Hmm.
around it, this type of stuff. There's no other explanation. Why would those critical frames in this video footage be boxed out with these little blurry pixelated squares? You
Yeah.
know, it's like, why? You know, we want the truth.
I know,
So,
and I've seen that so much before in the Bigfoot world, obviously. So it doesn't really surprise me, but I guess because I'm not well versed in water cryptid lore and history and everything,
mhm.
it doesn't surprise me that it happens, but it's just kind of I can't believe that it happens there too. I guess I don't know. That's just crazy to me. I don't doubt it at
Well,
all.
it's all in the book. So, like, when you go through it, you'll
Hmm.
see individual frames, and if you have the Kindle version, you'll be able to enlarge it, and there's no
Oh yeah.
missing it. I mean, in color, it stands out even more, but in black and white, it's there, and I show arrows, each one, all this stuff. So somebody didn't want
Uh,
Joe and Jane Public to
I
see
mean,
whatever it was that happened.
it grabbed a manatee. Something grabbed him. Manatees are not little. They
No,
are
but
not petite, edible snacks.
they are fairly defenseless. So if
Yes.
something big enough was
Yes.
to grab one, it's like a burger to go. You know.
What list to me the things that are big enough to grab a manatee?
Now you want me to
That
spoil
would be in
everything?
that area.
Let's put it this way: in Hawaii, there have been many sightings of immense octopuses. Okay,
Hmm.
and it seems like these sightings all coincide with the green turtle egg laying season. So these
Okay.
big mother turtles that could weigh 600 pounds or more are all
Hmm.
coming ashore to lay their eggs. Okay, they're slower than normal. They're going to be very tired and weak on the way back. I don't think it's a coincidence that octopuses reported being 40 or 50 feet long would be in that vicinity. They're there for
Right.
an easy meal. And a turtle that weighs 600 pounds is an easy meal. Octopi have, like squid, have beaks that can crunch through shells, and
Yeah.
the plastron is even softer than the carapace.
Hmm.
So if there's a predator that knows that manatees are in that area and migrating through that area, etc., they may time their approach. And there were two encounters because one of the guys I interviewed who saw something scary down there said they called and they reported it, and the person they spoke to, I don't remember if it was the harbor master, I think he said, or the Coast Guard, said, "Oh yeah, we know about it. Somebody reported a couple of days ago." And you're like, okay, so there's this giant predator, but you're not warning people?
Like you didn't think to tell people that might be swimming,
I don't
fishing.
know. I mean, that struck me as a little odd, but me, I mean, I wear my tin foil hat to sleep.
I
I do
think
not.
we all do.
Yes, but so these are certain things that I encountered during the research struck me as odd like that.
Yeah.
So, and if
Yeah,
you
that's
know that
definitely
there's a large predator that's capable of eating a manatee, could be capable of eating something else.
Like human. I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah.
Dog. Whatever.
I'm not insinuating anything or anything like that, but
Yeah. I have to tell you, real quick side note back to the book, Kronos Rising, is I learned so much about octopi that I guess I thought I knew, but I learned so much about them, and I've never really been that scared of the giant squid
mm,
situation until I read this book. Now I'm freaking terrified. So thank you for that. Um, there are things listed
it's
in
just
there.
a novel. There's not,
No, some of these things are real.
well, there are colossal squid and there are giant squid, and sometimes they get much bigger than people think, and they are carnivorous. And if I was snorkeling and a 60-foot squid came up to me, I would be very frightened.
They're tentacles. It's in their tentacles that just the
Oh, the ones with the teeth, because the
yes. Oh
tentacles
my
have, yeah,
God.
they have claw. Yeah, it's not like an octopus. Like I've caught octopi while fishing
Yeah.
accidentally, and you're trying to get them off of you, and the octopus doesn't realize you're not trying to hurt it. You're trying to get the fish hook out, and you're trying to let it go. And
Right.
every time you peel off one arm, three more take its place. It's like something you need like five friends to help you to get this poor
That
octopus back in the
traumatizes me.
water. But squid, they're suckers. They're lined with teeth. Sometimes they have like a claw that comes out the center. I mean, they're
Yeah.
designed to,
Yeah.
rip and tear, and they don't want to let go.
So in the book, Max describes this giant squid and it's got these teeth and its tentacles and all of this and
Is
it's,
that the one with the
you know,
whale was eating?
yes, and it's
Yeah,
like
fighting with
rar,
the
and
whale.
so it's like
Yeah.
ripping the whale to shreds and all this and the prey becomes the predator situation and you're just like
No
I'm sitting there
spoilers.
I'm traumatized by the giant squid
Mm.
and then the whale comes along, whatever, and then something comes along that eats basically both of them. And I'm just like, it actually just eats the squid.
It's
And
you
it
got to up
like,
the ante though.
and it like chomps the squid. It makes sure to mush it so it doesn't get any pokey pieces and then it eats it.
Yes. Attention to detail, because they do have that bony. It's called a gladius, like the sword that
Yes.
runs through
Yeah.
their. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I learned much more about giant squid than I've ever wanted to know in my entire life. And also, I will not be swimming in the ocean anytime soon. So thank you for that. My travel plans have become a lot more financially manageable thanks to you.
I was going
But
to say your husband put me up to it, but that's not true. So.
no, he's actually watching this show. He just sent me a message that he told me to smile. He said I looked very angry, but I was concentrating on your cryptid story with the Bigfoot or gigantic Irish setter or whatever it was. I was concentrating because I could just see it in my mind a juvenile Bigfoot or
It
whatever
was
just
it,
swimming along there
it was
picking up crayfish and
so
eating it.
odd. It's like when you see something that's not supposed to be there, that's
Right.
not supposed to exist,
Yes.
and you're staring at it. You're like, really?
Yeah.
And your brain is trying to make sense of it, and
It comes up with any other possible thing that it could possibly be.
right. That's
You
what you
know,
do. It's an
yeah,
instinctive thing,
yeah,
and like when my daughter and I encountered this winged thing a couple years back,
yes,
and she was all excited, like, Daddy,
yeah.
and I'm staring at it, and my brain is like churning, like in the book where
Hmm.
that computer system Archimedes.
Yes,
You know, like that, and I'm
yeah,
like, duh, 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 like trying to go through the whole entire animal kingdom at light speed with adrenaline, and identify what this thing is that I'm staring at, and you come up empty.
nothing. Yeah,
Yeah, and then you walk around scratching your head, like, did that just happen?
yeah.
Like, so.
That's
Thankfully,
what
she
I
was
something
there.
I
So.
something I always tell witnesses as soon as it happens and you come back to Earth, write it down because within the next 24 to 48 hours, your brain is going to come up with all kinds of reasons it couldn't be what it was.
Oh, I even
So
drew it.
write down exactly what you saw, every
Mm,
single detail you can recount, because when you look back in that on 3 days, like you will already have formulated exactly what you think it is,
mm.
but you need to look at your notes because that's going to give you the best bet of what you saw.
Oh, it's burned into my brain. I mean, I
Yeah.
could see this thing in my mind right now. like if there was a way to hook it up and we could just play it, if I had a
Yeah.
dash camera, you know, like when that
I know.
happened, because it was right there in my headlights, suspended there,
Yeah.
and like not the the hairy red thing. I mean this
The
winged
winged
creature.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like posing for the camera practically. I mean like.
If you had had a dash cam, you would have never seen it.
No, I think it was hurt. It was hurt. It was at
Okay.
first.
Yeah.
It was on the ground and all, and yeah, it's a long story. I don't want to bore you, people.
Y-
How long
You
is
know,
the show for?
it's whenever
Oh
I
my
was just
god.
a. You're here
Oh
forever.
my god.
You are
As
my
Chandler would say.
paleofiction monkey forever. I was actually about to start wrapping up, just kind of asking a few last minute questions and such. But I think it's just the monsters and marine mysteries. I think it's interesting how you went from writing this paleo-fiction series, and you've written a few other things as well. He's written a children's book, everybody, and you can go to the website. Everything's in the link below. I have listed all of his links to check out his works, but he's written other books as well for you to check out. But the latest one, the Monsters and Marine Mysteries, it just seems like a natural progression from where you started to now. It just seems like it was inevitable that you were going to end up writing about marine cryptids, basically.
Well, my research kind of loaned itself to that,
Yeah.
and I've become friends with a lot of cryptozoologists and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but my own personal experience has like been like freaky. I mean, like if somebody just asked what the wing thing was. Should I should,
Yes.
should I say
Go
it?
for it. Go for
The
it.
whole
I'm here
story,
for
or
it.
just like the Cliffs Notes version?
I mean, it's up to you if you want to do, I mean, just, yeah.
I mean, it's all in the book, but basically, we were driving, we encountered this thing lying in the street, and I live near the woods,
Hmm.
so and I believe that it there was snow, it was like flurrying and pretty windy,
Right.
and so visibility was. Can I say crap on here?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You already said douche, so I
I
think
know.
you're good.
Oh, good. That guy was a douche.
He
You don't
was.
treat you don't treat women like that. But anyway,
Bradford was something else.
yes,
May
boy,
he rest in peace.
yes, pieces. Um, but yeah, so I think this thing hit a power line or something like that, and I think
Okay.
it was hurt. Okay, and then we were driving along, and I thought it was a piece of debris or something like that, and I was going real slow, and I was going to straddle it with my tires, and I had said out loud to my daughter, "There's something in the road." So she was like, she was in a car seat on this side, and she was leaning forward, so she saw it too.
Yeah.
And then it started to like lift up, like it was like pushing itself up.
And how
And
big was it?
its head was about the size of an apple.
Okay.
Okay, and so I think it was about a foot tall, but I'm
Okay.
guessing, and because I didn't see the whole thing, I saw it push itself up, and that's when I stopped, and it was in my headlights. Now this is at nighttime in the dark, but the headlights are right there, so it's brightly lit, and you see it's like gray, dark gray skin, black eyes, and all, and it was like this, like that. Not a lot of teeth, but it was very angry or upset, and I think it was afraid because you
Yeah.
got 2 or 3 tons of SUV bearing down on you, and you're like this big. It can't be So and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, and like I said, told you, my brain was like churning
Yeah.
through raccoon, groundhog, rabbit, squirrel, rabbit, squirrel. Like everything and anything I could think of. And nothing made sense. It was like it's sort of like the homunculus from the Sinbad movie or something like that.
Yeah.
Really, it was an unpleasant looking thing.
Right.
Okay,
I'm
and
thinking
scary.
labyrinth. Like it just makes me think of the labyrinth. I don't know why.
Like
But
if you tried to touch this thing, it would bite your finger right off.
yeah.
Guaranteed. Okay. But and then I said out loud, like, what the I'm not so used to. I said it. I don't
Yeah.
normally use that language. My daughter was 7 at the time.
Yeah.
This is November 22nd, 2016. That's the
Right.
exact day. Okay. It's on the drawing I did when I wrote it, came in and walked in. But and so I said, what the hell is that? And then as I said that, it sprang up into the air, and wings come out like this, and the wingspan, I mean, I think like recently stepped outside my truck and I kind of like eyeballed how far away it was. And I would say it was about 2 car lengths away from me in the air. And it had like insect like wings, two
No,
sets.
no, I don't
Okay.
like that.
They were not like dragonfly wings. I mean, they were clear like that,
Okay. Yeah, that
but
was my
they
next
weren't
question.
shaped like that. They were like long, thin ovals like that.
Okay.
And they were the same size and they were vibrating like a hummingbird does or something like that. It was
Right.
holding itself right there. But it looked different in the air. So I don't know if it could blend with the asphalt, change colors, what. But it was like very like ethereal looking in the air. Like the wings were like lit up, I guess, by my headlights and had like a glowing edges to them and stuff. And it looked more like whitish or silvery, like there. And it was
Hmm.
just there. And I'm staring at it. And Ava's like, "It's a fairy, Daddy! It's a fairy!" And she's pointing right at it. And then I think it saw her move like that. It
Yeah.
was like this or something like that. And then it went
Ugh,
woof,
that gave me
right over
chills.
the roof of the truck. Like, and it was a very powerful flyer. I mean, like I think, like I said, I think it got stunned or hurt, hit a wire, something like that, and crashed. And then it got its breath or whatever, its energy back. And then it just, when it realized, like somebody was pointing at it and stuff, it just took off like gangbusters and stuff, and it was
That
gone. Yeah.
fight or flight kicked in. So, whereabouts was this?
This is in Buckingham, Pennsylvania. And by the way, somebody from a cryptid show had sent me info after I had spoken about this on a show, and there was these people in Pennsylvania who I have to find the listing, but they were sitting outside of their like house or cabin. They had like an overhang on the porch and flower pots hanging down,
Hmm.
flowering plants in them and stuff. And they heard something, and something came out of one of the flowering plants, and they saw a winged humanoid, like a foot tall, that was like
Yeah.
gray. It sounded like the same type of creature, and it just like came out, and it was like hiding or sleeping or resting in the flower pots and stuff, and then it got disturbed somehow, or I forget the details, but a bunch of them saw it. So but if it was a fairy, first of all, if it was like a friend of mine was like, oh, that was like a baby Mothman. If that was a Mothman looks nothing like the statues and the drawings. It didn't have glowing red eyes. The wings were like insect wings,
Yeah.
clear membranous wings. Okay, and the wings were big. Like the wingspan, I'm gonna guess was at least a yard for a foot tall creature. Maybe even 4 feet. It had big wings for
I
its
have to
size.
say, somehow that is even creepier than the real Mothman encounters or any other cryptid, marine or otherwise. That's just creepy.
It
It's
was it was
creepy.
something to see. I mean, like, and if you think about it, wing wise, I mean, if you look at a bird's height compared to its wingspan, the wingspan is several 3 times the height of the bird, easy, if
Right.
not more.
Yeah.
Like an
Yeah.
eagle, or I mean, and if you look at a seagull, it's even worse. But this thing was. I walked into the house talking to myself. I was like, "What the?" My
Yeah.
wife's like, "What's the matter?" And she was like, "Mommy, we saw a fairy. We saw a fairy." And if this is a fairy, they're not these cute little Tinkerbell-like things.
No.
This was about, yay big, okay, something like that, and wings out to here, and it was hideous. I mean, like, ugh, ugh.
Mm.
But and I went on the computer, and I'm like, largest bat found in North America.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
No. The closest I came was like the extinct dragonfly Megalurna, I think it's pronounced, which was the size almost, but they've been extinct since the Triassic. And this was not an insect. It had a
Yeah.
face, it had eyes, it had a mouth, it had like arms. It was like really bizarre.
You said you did a drawing of it?
Yes, it's in the book,
Okay. All right. Well,
and
I
and
have
I drew its face also.
okay.
I used to be an artist, so I can draw. So
Okay. Well, definitely you guys pre-order that book to check it out. Because that's something that's creepy. I don't know why the little things creep me out so much more than the big things, unless it's
I
in
don't,
water,
I don't
apparently.
know, but I
Little
mean,
crittery things creep me out.
yeah. And
Yeah.
lately, I've been trying to, because my former agent, she had said, "Oh, it's a brownie. They're a large species of fairy that,
Yeah.
they live in the treetops with squirrels and stuff like that, and they eat
They don't.
berries, this type of stuff." So like, and there's a funny story about what happened after that. What my daughter and I tried to do. I don't want to spoil everything for people, but lately I've been trying to. I put out a camera trap in the vicinity
Mhm.
of the woods there, and
Yeah.
I have a suspended, like tray from there that I bought for that purpose, and I keep going out every other day, and I'm putting fruit out there and stuff,
Yes.
and I'm hoping to get this sucker. I've got infrared, I've got the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hoping to get this thing on video. I'm probably just going to get the bobcat that keeps attacking the deer and stuff like that. But if I get this thing on video,
My
it,
God.
that's it. So
If you get it on video, like email me and tell me, but I don't want to see it. Is that weird? But like, I really don't want to know that there's something out there when I'm in the woods that can like
it shook me up. I was walking
creep.
along, and I felt like that scene in one of the Twilight movies where the girl finds out that about the werewolves, and then
Yeah.
she's like, you know, werewolves are real, vampires are real. Is everything, all the legends true?
Yeah.
This type of stuff. And that's what I'm thinking now. Like, are there
Yeah.
zombies out there? What else is going to come
Yeah.
walking into my
Chupacabra.
house? I need to stop writing with these things. They're developing an affinity for me or something like that, and I'm attracting them. So.
That's what I was gonna say. Whenever you said it looked like the Triassic dragonfly, I'm like, maybe you just attract paleo
Yeah, but
cryptids.
but it was 36 degrees out or something. No insect would be
Yeah.
alive. It was just it was. I don't know. I mean, it could have been an extraterrestrial for all I know.
It's definitely creepy and weird. And my first thought was little person, but because I've recently done shows over little people, but it's just those don't have wings, and so I don't know what you saw, but when you figure it out, let me know.
Absolutely.
One of the comments, have you looked at the Iroquois story of the flying face? So you
Hmm.
might write that down and look into that. So I think I could talk to you probably for the rest of the night and never get bored because you are a fascinating guest and very multifaceted. Um, I'm going to go ahead and end this interview and go finish your book because I'm over here dying to know what happens next so that I can get to the next book. I'm sorry, everybody listening. I'm being selfish. I really want to go finish that book. But
I'll look forward to your review on Amazon then.
I will leave a review. But thank you so much for coming on tonight, and thank you for all the work that you've done between that series of Kronos Rising and Monsters and Marine Mysteries, as well as your other books. I really look forward to completing this series and then pre-ordering Monsters and Marine Mysteries. And after I read Monsters and Marine Mysteries, I would really love to have you back on to kind of discuss that more in depth, if that's okay.
It would be my privilege. And what kind of cologne do I wear? Oh gosh, it's unforgivable.
Unforgivable.
It is.
I just now saw that and I was just like,
Yeah.
buffering, what? Okay, so thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Hey, thank you for
And
having me.
yes, and you guys go look into the series that he offers as well as the book that's about to come out about cryptids, Monsters and Marine Mysteries, available for pre-order on Amazon. So thank you so much for coming on tonight.
My pleasure.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Um, Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Please drop a comment down below and don't forget to like and subscribe. I want to give a special shout out tonight to the affiliates of Night Colors Bigfoot Radio. Go check out their various sites, give them a listen and a like, show them some love because they are all awesome. We've got Bigfoot Society podcast. Jeremiah is doing big things over there. You guys go check it out. He has people on all the time, so go check him out. We have Bipolar Teddy Bear Network. They are a paranormal show, and so they do They do interviews with other podcast hosts. They've had me on as well as Hadley Thorne, but they just do a lot of paranormal related stuff that is really fascinating. They recently did one over Skinwalker Ranch that I just started, so I have to listen to that and finish it up. But they're really great guys. Really, they have this great dynamic between all of them that makes for a really interesting show. Check out Bigfoot Crossroads. Give him a like and subscribe. Matt Knapp is over there. He's about to bring Bigfoot Crossroads back in a whole new way that will still represent his awesome style that he does. On that note, Matt Knapp is my partner on Planet Fear, so don't forget to check out Planet Fear, give it a like and subscribe. He and I bring our decade-long experience of podcast hosting into a new show on true crime and paranormal. We also bring cryptids into it a little bit because we just can't help ourselves. So go check us out. You'll really love it. And while you're at it, check out Weird Realities, which is a show that I produce but do not host. Hadley Thorne and Gracie Ellison, they have just all the weird stuff that they bring about in a very well-researched and intelligent way, along with their adorable Southern draws and humor. So you have to go check them out. It's a great show. I enjoy every episode that I listen to. A spinoff of that is Weird Inc. with James Irby that he joins Hadley and Gracie on. And they interview authors like Max Hawthorne and other authors that have done weird works. So go check them out. And don't forget to check out Bigfoot Club with Bob Dominguez and his co-hosts. They cover all things Bigfoot all the time. You guys go check it out. And if you're interested in becoming an affiliate like these guys, go to nightcolorsproductions.com and you can read the affiliate info there. Thank you guys again for coming on tonight. I really appreciate your support. I appreciate you guys being here tonight. Don't forget to go check out nightcolorsproductions.com and look at my membership options where I have exclusive content just for members. So you get extra Night Terror segments, extra interviews like this, but private Zoom chats and stuff like that with the guest. So go sign up now. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to message me about them. And I'm always responsive and happy to message you back. But go check out the website for that. And I have merchandise. Don't know if you guys knew that. Looks kind of like this, except even more awesome. And I recently launched a brand new logo from Jonathan Dodd, who is amazing. And it is the Night Crawlers logo. So if you're a member of Night Crawlers Bigfoot Radio, if you're a listener, a fan, you are an official Night Crawlers member. So go check out the Night Crawlers logo because we know that Bigfoot doesn't just play hide and seek. They creep. They hide and they crawl, right? They belly crawl. So this new logo represents that. Go check it out. And that's all I have for you guys this week. Stay safe, be kind, and I will see y'all next time.